Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode. Today is Sunday, March 13th, 2022. This is Inspirational Sundays episode 5, season 3. Okay, we are reading from Genesis 15 today and directly picking up from where we left off last week, of course. And today's chapter, Genesis chapter 15, it is titled The Lord's Promise to Abram. Let's start, verse 1. Read along if you'd like, or just listen to the sound of my voice if you would like as well. Okay. The Lord's promise to Abram. Genesis chapter 15, verse 1. Later, the Lord spoke to Abram in a vision. Abram, do not be afraid. I will protect you and reward you greatly. But Abram answered, Lord all-powerful, you have given me everything I could ask for, except children. And when I die, Eliezer of Damascus will get all I own. You have not given me any children, and this servant of mine will inherit everything. The Lord replied, No, he won't. You will have a son of your own, and everything you have will be his. Then the Lord took Abram outside and said, Look at the sky, and see if you can count the stars. That's how many descendants you will have. Abram believed the Lord, so the Lord was pleased with him and accepted him. The Lord makes another promise to Abram. Verse 7. The Lord said to Abram, I brought you here from Ur in Chaldea, and I gave you this land. Abram asked, Lord God, how can I know the land will be mine? Then the Lord told him, Bring me a 3-year-old cow, a 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, a dove, and a young pigeon. Abram obeyed the Lord. Then he cut the animals in half and laid the 2 halves on each animal opposite each other on the ground. But he did not cut the dove and the pigeons in half. And when birds came down to eat the animals, Abram chased them away. As the sun was setting, Abram fell into a deep sleep, and everything became dark and frightening. Then the Lord said, Abram, you will live to an old age and die in peace. But I solemnly promise that your descendants will live as foreigners in a land that doesn't belong to them. They will be forced into slavery and abused for 400 years, but I will terribly punish the nation that enslaves them, and they will leave with many possessions. 4 generations later, your descendants will return here and take this land, because only then will the people who live here be so sinful that they deserve to be punished. Verse 17. Sometime after sunset, when it was very dark, a smoking cooking pot and a flaming fire passed between the 2 halves of each animal. I gotta highlight that. I'm sorry, that's kind of cool. Let's read that again. Okay, verse 17. Sometime after sunset, when it was very dark, a smoking cooking pot and a flaming fire passed between the 2 halves of each animal. At that time, the Lord made an agreement with Abram and told him, I will give your descendants the land east of the Shihor River, on the border of Egypt as far as the Euphrates River. They will possess the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaites. We're not going over this again. The Rephites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. Let's move on to chapter 16. Genesis chapter 16, verse 1, titled Hagar and Ishmael. Abram's wife, Sarai, had not been able to have any children, but she owned a young Egypt slave woman named Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, The Lord has not given me any children. Sleep with my slave, and if she has a child, it will be mine. Abram agreed, and Sarai gave him Hagar, Sarai gave him Hagar to be his wife. This happened after Abram had lived in the land of Canaan for 10 years. Later, when Hagar knew she was going to have a baby, she became proud and treated Sarai hatefully. Then Sarai said to Abram, "It's all your fault. I gave you." So how is it his fault? She even took ownership of that. Anyway, I'm going to highlight that. I feel like somebody needs to see that highlighted. Here we go. Verse 5. Again, I'm just reading it over. Then Sarai said to Abram, actually, right here, where is it? Right back to verse 1. Let's just read the whole thing over again here. So it's chapter 16, it's verse 1. Abram's wife Sarai had not been able to have any children, but she owned a young Egyptian slave woman named Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, "The Lord has not given me any children. Sleep with my slave, and if she has a child, it will be mine." Abram agreed, and Sarai gave him Hagar to be his wife. Sarai gave him Hagar to be his wife. This happened after Abram had lived in the land of Canaan for 10 years. Later, when Hagar knew she was going to have a baby, she became proud and treated Sarai hatefully. Then Sarai said to Abram, "It's all your fault. I gave you my slave woman, but she has been hateful to me ever since she found out she was pregnant. You have done me wrong." Wow. "And you will have to answer to the Lord for this." Okay. All right. Okay. This is a perfect example of taking responsibility for your own actions and not blaming somebody for something you did or wanted to happen, but at the end it didn't turn out exactly how you wanted to turn out. It's funny there because she's saying a lot of "I," and then "you done me wrong. It's all your fault." I mean, if we do something, we got to take responsibility for it. That's pretty straightforward. But then she's saying he's gonna have to answer to the Lord for it, and Abraham didn't do anything. Okay. But see, Abram said, "All right," in verse 6, Abram said, "All right, she's your slave. Do whatever you want with her." Then Sarai began treating Hagar so harshly that she finally ran away. That's bad, because it wasn't Hagar's fault. Verse 7, Hagar stopped to rest at a spring in the desert on the road to Shur. While she was there, the angel of the Lord came to her and asked, "Hagar, where have you come from, and where are you going?" She answered, "I'm running away from Sarai, my owner." The angel said, "Go back to Sarai and be her slave. I will give you a son who will be called Ishmael, because I have heard your cry for help. And someday I will give you so many descendants that no one will be able to count them all." Verse 12, "But your son will live far from his relatives. He will be like a wild donkey, fighting everyone and everyone fighting him." Hagar thought, "Have I really seen God and lived to tell about it?" So from then on, she called him the God who sees me. That's why people call the well between Kadesh and Bered the well of the living one who sees me. Verse 16, Abram was 86 years old when Hagar gave birth to their son, and he named him Ishmael. Chapter 17. God's promise to Abraham. Verse 1. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him again and said, "I am God all-powerful. If you obey me and always do right, I will keep my solemn promise to you and give you more descendants than can be counted." Abram bowed his face to the ground, and God said, "I promise that you will be the father of many nations. So now I'm changing your name from Abram to Abraham." Just going to go ahead and highlight that. "And I will give you a lot of descendants, and they will become great nations. Some of them will even be kings. I will always keep the promise I have made to you and your descendants, because I am your God and their God. I will give you and them the land in which you are now a foreigner. I will give the whole land of Canaan to your family, and I will be their God." Verse 9, Abraham, you and all future members of your family must promise to obey me. As the sign that you are keeping this promise, you must circumcise every man and boy in your family. From now on, your family must circumcise every baby boy when he is 8 days old. You must even circumcise any man or boy you have as a slave. Both those born in your homes and those you buy from foreigners. This will be a sign that my promise to you will last forever. Verse 14, any man who isn't circumcised hasn't kept his part of the promise and cannot be one of my people. Abraham, from now on, your wife's name will be Sarah instead of Sarai. And I will bless her, and you will have a son by her. She will become the mother of nations, and some of her descendants will even be kings. Abram bowed his face to the ground and thought, I am almost 100 years old. How can I become a father? And Sarah is 90. How can she have a child? So he started laughing. Then he asked God, why not let Ishmael inherit what you have promised me? But God answered, no, you and Sarah will have a son. His name will be Isaac. Ooh, I got chills there. I just got chills. And I will make an everlasting promise to him and his descendants. However, I have heard what you asked me to do for Ishmael, and so I will also bless him with many descendants. He will be the father of 12 princes, and I will make his family a great nation. But your son Isaac will be born about this time next year, and the promise I am making to you and your family will be for him and his descendants forever. Verse 22, God finished speaking to Abraham and then left. On that same day, Abraham obeyed God by circumcising Ishmael. Abraham was also circumcised, and so were all the other men and boys in his household, including his servants and slaves. He was 99 years old at the time, and his son Ishmael was 13. You know what? We're going to end it off there for today. Might be a little bit short, but sweet and short nonetheless. Reading over God's word is just it's very satisfying. It's very satisfying. I'm glad that we're actually reading it over. Like I said before, me and my family are definitely are reading. We are way past this right now, but it's a good refresher. It's good to keep it alive and moving in the mind. It's very good to stay in the word too as well. Again, it's not just a Sunday thing. I do the videos on Sunday mornings. You guys see them in Sunday evenings after editing and all of that stuff. But every day we do this daily. It's not just Sunday, if you worship on Sunday to get into the word. It's not just Saturday if you worship on Saturday to get into the word. It's not just Wednesday, which is a typical Bible study night, in the Christian faith. But it should be daily. It should be daily, Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. As always, I'm your humble host, Picaso. Stay blessed. I'm out. Peace.